兄姐妹，大家平安。
Peace to all of our brothers and sisters.
晚上传道想跟我们一起来分享祷告的母亲哈拿。
Tonight, I'd like to share with everyone the topic of a praying mother, Hannah.
在圣经里头有不少时代的伟人。
In the Bible, there are many women throughout the times.
时代的伟人伟大的人物。
There were great people throughout the Bible.
就好像挪亚，他就是其中一个转变时代的人。
Just like Noah, who was a transformative figure.
他结束了这个洪水以前旧的时代。
And he was the great man before the flood.
那亚伯拉罕也是一个时代的伟人。
Abraham was also a great person of his generation.
他凭着信心答应了神的呼召。
And by faith, he agreed to God's calling.
那神也借着他的后代为我们预备了主耶稣基督。
And God also prepared Lord Jesus for us.
那摩西也是一个时代的伟人。
Moses is also a great man in his time.
他结束了以色列人在埃及为奴的生活。
And he ended the period of slavery for the Israelites in Egypt.
那约书亚也是一个时代的伟人。
Joshua was also a great man of the times.
他结束了以色列人在旷野的生活。
And he ended the life of wilderness for the Israelites.
带以色列百姓进到神应许给他们的迦南地。
So that the people of God would be able to enter into the promised land of Canaan.
那在他们进到迦南地之后，
And after they entered into the land of Canaan,
以色列人有一段时期他们很混乱。
there was a period of chaos for the Israelites.
就是士师时代。
It is during the period of Judges.
所以神同样的也兴起了一个这个伟人叫撒母耳。
In the same way, God raised up a great person by the name of Samuel.
结束了这个混乱的士师时代。
And he helped bring stability and calm to a chaotic time.
那从此以色列人他们就进入到这个列王的时代当中。
And from then on, the Israelites entered into the period of the kings.
那这一位撒母耳，他的一生受了谁的影响最大呢？
And who did in Samuel's life, who impacted him the most?
是谁决定了他的前途？
Who determined his future?
让他能够成为一个划时代的伟人。
So that he can become such a great man of the time.
当然，我们都知道每一个伟人都是神所兴起的。
And we know that every great person is raised up by the Lord.
然而，神借着谁使撒母耳成为一个超越时代的伟人？
But through what person did God raise Samuel to become such a transcendent great man?
这一位不是别人，就是他的母亲哈拿。
And it is none other than his mother, Hannah.
哈拿对于撒母耳的一生影响非常的大。
Hannah had a great influence on her son's life.
也就是撒母耳一生的前途都是借着他的母亲来帮助他的。
And Samuel's future was supported and determined by his mother.
无论是他侍奉的态度，
whether it's in his attitude of service,
或者是他祷告的程度，
or his level of prayer,
都是受到他的母亲哈拿深深的影响。
They were all influenced deeply by his mother Hannah.
好，那我们现在啊，就来看看，那这一位母亲到底是怎么样来培育这么一个优秀的撒母耳。
And so let us now study how this mother was able to raise up such an exceptional man in Samuel.
谈到这个哈拿他属灵的生命。
And when we talk about Hannah's spiritual life,
神特别借着几件事情来造就哈拿。
God had edified Hannah through many ways.
第一件事情就是借着哈拿的不能生育。
And the first way he edified her was through her infertility.
我们来看撒母耳记上的第1章。
Let's turn to 1 Samuel chapter 1.
撒母耳记上1章，我们来看第1节到第6节。
1 Samuel chapter 1, verses 1 to 6.
第1节，以法莲山地的拉玛索菲有一个以法莲人，名叫以利加拿，是苏佛的玄孙，托户的曾孙，以利户的孙子，耶罗罕的儿子。第2节。
Verse 2.
他有2个妻，一名哈拿，一名毗尼拿。毗尼拿有儿女，哈拿没有儿女。3节。
3.
这人每年从本城上到示罗，敬拜祭祀万军之神。在那里有以利的2个儿子何弗尼、菲尼哈，都当神的祭司。第4节。
4.
以利加拿每逢献祭的日子，将祭肉分给他的妻毗尼拿和毗尼拿所生的儿女。第5节。
Verse 5.
给哈拿的却是双份，因为他爱哈拿，无奈主不使哈拿生育。第6节。
Verse 6.
毗尼拿见主不使哈拿生育，就做他的对头，大大激动他，要使他生气。在这一段经文记载。
And in this passage records,
在当时对这个犹太的女人来说，不生育是一个羞耻。
For the Jewish women, it was a shame to be barren.
但是生不生育却不是这个妈妈她能够自己做主。
But whether or not one can conceive is not up to the mother's choice.
也不是她本身的错误。
And it's also not her fault.
但是哈拿的不生育却带给哈拿许多的苦恼。
But Hannah's inability to conceive brought her much sadness.
好在哈拿她懂得把困难带到神的面前。
But it was a good thing that Hannah understood to bring her worries and her cares before the Lord.
借着诚恳的祷告来向神求怜悯。
And through earnest prayer, she asked for mercy from the Lord.
她借着祷告来超越在人来看没有办法超越的难关。
And through prayer, she transcended such a challenge that was deemed impossible by people.
她借着祷告来胜过自己不能控制的困难。
Through prayer, she was able to overcome the challenge that she could not overcome herself.
最后她得到神赐给她一个儿子，就是撒母耳。
And in the end, she received the son given to her by the Lord, which was Samuel.
所以哈拿是一个很懂得祷告的人。
Hannah was a woman who knew how to pray.
对犹太人来说，当时不生育是个羞耻。
And to the Israelites, it was a shame to not be able to conceive.
对今天我们基督徒来说，属灵的不生育也是一种羞耻。
And today, to us, to Christians, the inability to spiritually conceive is also shameful.
有一些基督徒 虽然信主已经很多年了。
There are Christians who have believed in the Lord for many years,
但是从来都不传福音，从来都没有带领人来信主。
but they never preached and they never brought anyone to believe.
所以不知道我们有没有为着我们自己属灵的不孕症，好好的来祷告呢？
So have we also prayed earnestly for our spiritual infertility?
是不是我们能够像哈拿那样子，心里愁苦，痛痛的哭泣呢？
Are we able to weep bitterly, just like Hannah in our prayer?
那第二个造就哈拿灵性的就是她的丈夫了。
The second thing that edified Hannah was her husband.
我们来看这个7节8节。
Let us read verses 7 and 8.
第7节，撒母耳记上1章7节，每年上到神的神殿的时候，以利加拿都以双份给哈拿，毗尼拿仍是激动他，以致他哭泣不吃饭。第8节。
Verse 8.
她丈夫以利加拿对她说：“哈拿，你为何哭泣不吃饭，心里愁闷呢？有我不比10个儿子还好吗？”哈拿的丈夫以利加拿深深爱着哈拿。
Hannah's husband Elkanah loved her deeply.
但是他却同时也爱另外一个女人。
But at the same time, he also loved another woman.
就是另外一个妻子毗尼拿。
Which is his other wife, Peninnah.
那哈拿的丈夫也给哈拿有许多的功课。
Hannah's husband also gave her many lessons.
哈拿的丈夫并非不爱哈拿，他爱哈拿，甚至比爱另外一个妻子毗尼拿更多。
He loved Hannah even more than he loved Peninnah.
所以在每年献祭的时候，给哈拿的总是双份的祭肉。
And so whenever the time came to make an offering, he would give Hannah a double portion.
那既然这个以利加拿这么样的爱哈拿，那为什么他又要另外娶一个太太毗尼拿呢？
Since Elkanah loved Hannah so much, why would he marry another woman as well?
哈拿的丈夫以利加拿也不是一个不体贴的丈夫。
Elkanah was not a husband that wasn't empathetic to her.
所以当他看到哈拿在哭，知道是怎么一回事他就安慰哈拿。
And he was a loving husband, so that when he saw Hannah crying, he went to comfort her.
甚至告诉哈拿说说有我不比10个儿子还好吗？
And he even asked her, "Am I not better to you than 10 sons?"
但是他从来没有想过。
But perhaps he never thought about.
如果哈拿用同样的话来问她的丈夫她丈夫要怎么回答？
If Hannah in turn asked him the same question, how would he reply?
如果有这个哈拿比10个儿子更好的话，那他就不需要再娶另外一个妻子啦。
And if Hannah asked her husband if she was better than 10 sons, then he would no longer need to marry another woman to have children.
换句话说在哈拿的心灵深处，他明白一件事情。
So in Hannah's heart, she understood something.
她的丈夫虽然爱她，但仍然渴望能够有儿子。
She knew that even though her husband loved her, he still desired to have sons.
所以在他之外，还要爱另外一个女人。
And besides that, he also loved another woman.
这在哈拿的心中永远都是一个痛苦。
And in Hannah's heart, this was always a pain.
但是面对这个痛苦，她却无话可说啊，因为她自己没有办法生育。
But facing this pain, in her own infertility, there was not much she could do or say.
这就是神借着哈拿的丈夫啊，给哈拿很大的造就。
And this is the edification that God had given Hannah through her husband Elkanah.
让哈拿能够看见人世间的爱就是这么样的有限。
And so that she can clearly see that the love of this world is limited.
她可以，这个哈拿可以啊，有一个很理想的丈夫啊。
And she would have an ideal husband.
但是仍然没有办法，让哈拿的心灵深处的遗憾能够得到满足。
But he was still unable to feel the pain and agony in her heart.
今天或许有一些弟兄姐妹，他们的另外一半还没有信主。
Today, perhaps some of our believers, their spouses have yet believed.
也许他们的另外一半也很爱他们。
Perhaps their spouses also love them deeply.
他们另外一半的家人对他们也非常的好。
And their spouse's family also treat them very well.
但是同样的，这个还没有信主的另一半，他心里头还有另外所爱的。
But this unbelieving spouse, in their heart, they still have other things that they love.
当然了，不是指着他有小三啊，有外遇啊，他的心里另外所爱的就是这个今生的世界。
And it's not referring to any affairs that they're having, but rather that they love this world.
他没有办法像我们已经信主的这些基督徒一样我们专爱耶稣。
And they're unable to be like the believers who focus their love on Jesus alone.
能够跟我们同心合意来奔跑天国道路。
And they cannot be like us to journey on this heavenly path together.
所以虽然再多属人属世界的情爱，也弥补不了我们内心深处的遗憾。
And so no matter how great the love is from this world, it's still unable to fill this deep grief inside of us.
看到这个全家信主的弟兄姐妹，他们手牵着手，夫妻一起带着孩子来聚会敬拜神。
Looking at the families who all believe, they come hand in hand to worship the Lord.
而我们却这个形影孤单的甚至这个自己带着这个孩子们来教会来聚会。
And bringing children to church to worship.
总是让我们心里头有一种没有办法说出来的这个心酸跟遗憾。
And there is this unspoken grief in our hearts.
那接下来这个神也用哈拿的对头来造就哈拿。
And next, God also used Hannah's rival to edify her.
我们来看这个第6节跟第7节。
Let us read verses 6 and 7.
6节说，毗尼拿见神不使哈拿生育，就做他的对头，大大激动他，要使他生气。第7节，每年上到神殿的时候以利加拿都以双份给哈拿，毗尼拿仍是激动他，以致他哭泣不吃饭。哈拿的对头当然就是她丈夫的另外一个女人。
Hannah's rival was her husband's other wife.
这个女人不但 占夺了她的丈夫，而且还住在她的家里。
This woman not only had the love of her husband, but she also lived in their house together.
这个女人呢，是个厉害的角色，一找到机会啊，就要惹哈拿生气。
This wife was found every opportunity to provoke Hannah.
刚刚我们所读的第6节那边说，他就大大的激动他，要使他生气。
Verse 6, it says that Peninnah provoked her severely to make her miserable.
圣经虽然没有记载毗尼拿怎么惹哈拿生气，怎么激动他。
Although the Bible does not record how exactly she provoked her.
但是我们可以想象得出来啊，一定就是那一些关于她不能生育的一些讽刺的话。
But we can imagine that it would be harsh words concerning her infertility.
这个也让我们想起如果我们的婚姻的另一半并不是跟我们相同信仰。
And this can also remind us that if our spouse is an unbeliever,
同样的，我们也要忍受从这个属世而来一切的逼迫跟这个嘲笑。
we may have to put up and endure with the persecution and ridicule coming from the world.
不但没办法得到这个另一半的支持啊。
And not only may we not receive support from our unbelieving spouse,
还要受到这个另一半他的价值观、他的道德观、他的人生观的嘲讽跟逼迫。
And we may face the persecution and ridicule from their values and their morals.
但是我们看到哈拿并没有跟毗尼拿来争吵只是将这些事情带到神的面前。
We see that the Bible doesn't record that Hannah fought with Peninnah, but rather she brought everything to the Lord.
来向神流泪的祷告。
And she wept and prayed before God.
借着祷告所给她的力量，胜过了这个对头对她的激动。
The strength she received through prayer surpassed the provocation by her rival.
所以这也是神给哈拿的功课。
So this is also a lesson that God gave Hannah.
那再来还有另外一位就是当时的祭司以利。
And next, there is another character, which is the priest Eli.
我们来看12节到18节。
Let us read 12 to 18.
12节，哈拿在神面前不住祈祷，以利定睛看他的嘴。13节，原来哈拿心中默祷，只动嘴唇，不出声音，因此以利以为他喝醉了。14节，以利对他说：“你要醉到几时呢？你不应该喝酒。”15节。
15.
哈拿回答说：“主啊，不是这样，我是心里愁苦的妇人，清酒浓酒都没有喝，但在神面前倾心吐意。”16节。
16.
不要将婢女看作不正经的女子，我因被人激动，愁苦太多所以祈求到如今。17节。以利说
17.
你可以平平安安的回去，愿以色列的神允准你向他所求的。18节。哈拿说：“愿婢女在你眼前蒙恩。”于是妇人走去吃饭，面上再不带愁容了。以利也是当时的祭司。
Eli was priest at the time.
我们或许也可以把他当作是哈拿的这个牧者，牧养的人。
We can treat her like a shepherd for Hannah that helped guide and counsel her.
但是很明显的这个牧者已经老糊涂了。
It's obvious that this shepherd has already grown old and senile.
所以当哈拿倾心吐意的在向神祷告的时候，他竟然以为哈拿是喝醉了酒。
So when Hannah was praying earnestly to the Lord, he had mistaken her for being drunk with wine.
我们想想看，哈拿一方面对她丈夫失望，一方面又受到对头的激动。
And we see that on one hand, Hannah was disappointed by her husband. On the other, she was provoked by her rival.
那现在她来到神的面前，将所有的痛苦来向神倾吐。
And now that she came before the Lord and poured out her soul before the Lord.
偏偏又遇到这样一位糊里糊涂的牧者以利。
And then she encounters this old and senile counselor or shepherd, Eli.
把他恳切的祷告当作是醉酒说酒话。
And her earnest prayer was mistaken to be drunken in her drunkenness.
这是多么的让人家丧气的事情。
You can see how much of a disappointment that must have been for her.
但是我们在这里看到哈拿并没有因此就灰心了。
But we see here that Hannah did not lose heart.
反倒他用更谦卑、更温柔的态度来向以利解释，说不要把我看作是不正经的女子。我因为被人激动，愁苦太多，所以祈求到如今呐。
Rather, she used a meek and gentle attitude to respond to him, saying that she wasn't a wicked woman, and out of the abundance of her complaint and grief, she has spoken.
哈拿这种谦卑的解释马上让以利知道他误会了。
And this humble response immediately caused Eli to realize his misunderstanding.
那也为哈拿来祷告。
And he also interceded for her.
并且把神的话传给哈拿说你可以平平安安的回去了，愿以色列的神允准你向他所求的。
And he answered her, saying, Go in peace, and the God of Israel grant your petition which you have asked of him.
让哈拿他快快乐的回去吃饭，脸上也不再带着愁容了。
And so that Hannah could joyfully return back to eat, and her face was no longer sad.
以利或许也可以代表在教会里头的一种人。
Perhaps Eli can represent a type of person in the church.
一种服侍神的工人。
A type of servant, a type of believer that serves the Lord.
凭着自己的主观经验，还有这个先入为主的这个看人
And they rely on their own biases and opinions to view others.
总是认为自己所想象的就是对方实际上。
And they would think that what their thought of the other person is actually reality.
所以他看到哈拿这种没有声音、只动嘴唇的祷告他马上就判断这一定是喝醉酒。
And so when he observed her mouth moving, but there was no sound coming out of her mouth, he thought she must be drunk.
一定是一个不正经的女人
She must not be a very serious woman.
这种武断的把哈拿当成是醉酒的人真的是很伤害人的
And it is very hurtful for him to mistake her for a drunkard.
我们想想看我们如果到了神的教会来
And if you think about it, when we come to the Church of God,
我们满腹的辛酸，满腹的委屈，正想要找神好好的来 哭一哭，来倾诉一番。
And we carry so much grief and sorrow to pour out before the Lord.
结果我们遇到教会的长子传道负责人劈头就骂了我们一顿。
But yet, when we encounter the ministers in the church, they in turn scold us.
认为我们这个是咎由自取，是神在管教。
And they think that we deserve what we've gotten and God has punished us.
我们想想看，这是如何的让我们伤心难过的事。
And can you imagine how hurtful this can be?
但是哈拿他反而很谦虚的继续他的祷告。
But Hannah meekly continued to pray.
没有因为别人的误会就大发脾气。
She was not angered by someone else's misunderstanding.
甚至就一气之下就离开教会。
And she did not fall into a mode of anger and decide to leave the place or leave the church.
哈拿没有这样。
Hannah did not do that.
所以今天我们也不需要受别人的影响。
And so today we don't need to be affected by others.
我们是怎么样的人，神都知道。
God knows what type of person we are.
所以今天我们在我们弟兄姐妹在神的家里有时候我们也会面对这样的伤害。
And today, brothers and sisters in the house of God, we may face similar situations where we are hurt.
我们也不要灰心难过。
Let us not lose heart and be downtrodden.
曾经有一个大概4、5岁的小孩子小朋友小弟兄。
There was once a young brother about 4 or 5 years old.
然后在灵恩会的时候他跪着祷告。
During spiritual convocation, he knelt down and prayed.
但是他有一只脚的膝盖受了伤。
But he had injured one of his knees.
但是他仍然还是跪着祷告只不过是单跪着一只脚而已。
But he still knelt down and prayed, even though it was favored on one knee.
虽然他的这个妈妈跟他讲说你坐着祷告就好但是这个小男孩还是坚持在神的面前跪下祷告。
Even though his mother encouraged him to just sit down and pray, but he persisted to pray even on one knee.
所以他就单脚跪着祷告
And so he prayed on one knee.
结果没有多久有一个这个宗教教育的老师经过。
And not long after, an RE teacher passed by.
就用手打了这个小男孩的屁股你这么调皮，连祷告都不跪好。
And she spanked this little boy and says, "You're so mischievous. You don't even kneel down properly when you pray."
因为在这个宗教教育老师他的经验也好，他的观念也好，觉得这个4、5、6岁的这个小男生最顽皮啦。
And in the view of this RE teacher, she knew that boys around this age were the most mischievous.
所以祷告也都是不专心的。
And they had the bias that these boys do not concentrate in their prayers.
所以他就很主观的就判断这个单脚跪着祷告的小弟兄就是顽皮捣蛋的小孩。
And so in her mind, they thought that this boy must have been very disobedient.
但是却没有想到这个实际上的状况跟这个老师想的是完全不一样。
But the teacher did not expect that reality was completely different than what they had expected.
所以这个也是我们在教会里头当我们想要指教别人的时候我们应该要先了解情况 才不会伤了别人。
And so this is also a lesson to us that before we try to point out others' faults or scold others, let us understand the situation first.
那我们看到哈拿在为他自己的事情祷告。
So we see that Hannah was praying for her own affairs.
在撒母耳记上第1章10节、15节跟18节。
In 1 Samuel chapter 1, verses 10, 15, and 18.
我们看到哈拿的祷告是心里愁苦，痛痛哭泣。
We see that her prayer was the bitterness of soul, and she wept in anguish.
是倾心吐意的。
And she was pouring out her soul before the Lord.
所以我们看到哈拿的祷告是真心实意的。
And so we see that she really prayed earnestly.
那18节当这个哈拿他得到这个以利的这个谅解之后。
When Hannah received, when Eli finally understood Hannah's situation,
也得到以利的祝福
and she received his blessing.
那哈拿又满有的信心他就
Then Hannah was
回去吃饭脸上不再带着愁容。
Hannah was then full of faith and went back to eat, and her face was no longer sad.
所以我们看到哈拿他的祷告不但是倾心吐意的，而且还是信心的祷告。
We see that Hannah not only poured out her soul before the Lord in prayer, but her prayer was also a prayer of faith.
虽然以利糊涂了，但是哈拿他却相信神。
Even though Eli was confused, but Hannah still relied upon the Lord.
绝对没有怀疑的。
She did not doubt.
果然他得着了神给他的应许神赐了他一个儿子撒母耳。
Indeed, she received the promise of God and was given Samuel as her son.
他也照样的把他向神所做的承诺把撒母耳奉献给神。
She also fulfilled her promise to the Lord and offered Samuel to God.
我们看到哈拿他信神但是却不受人的影响。
We see that Hannah had faith in God and was not influenced by others.
这也是我们在祷告的时候应当有的态度。
This is also the attitude we should have in prayer.
那一个成功的母亲想必一定能够影响她的儿子。
And a successful mother must be able to have a positive influence on her son.
同样的，撒母耳也受到他的母亲哈拿的影响。
So in the same way, Samuel was influenced by his mother.
那首先第一个就是侍奉的态度的影响。
And the first way he was influenced was in the way he served.
在这个11节那边
In verse 11,
哈拿在神的面前许愿说：“万军之主你若垂顾卑你的苦情，眷念不忘卑你，是我一个儿子，我必使他终身归主，不用剃头刀剃他的头。”哈拿他所要的是一个终身侍奉主的儿子。
Hannah asked for a male child that would serve the Lord all the days of his life.
拿西尔人的2个记号一个就是清酒浓酒都不喝，另外一个是一辈子都不剃头发。
The two signs of a Nazarite was that they would have no drink nor have a razor come upon their head.
撒母耳就是个拿西尔人。
And Samuel was a Nazarite.
因为他一生下来，哈拿就照着向神所许的愿，把他分别为圣献给神。
And ever since he was born, Hannah had fulfilled her vow to consecrate him for the Lord.
而撒母耳也真的没有辜负他母亲殷切的期望果然一辈子都侍奉神。
And Samuel also did not disappoint his mother. He served the Lord all the days of his life.
我们亲爱的弟兄姐妹，
Our beloved brothers and sisters,
今天呢，我们对我们儿女的期望又是什么呢？
today, what is our expectation for our children?
我们是不是要一个能够作为神家器皿的儿女呢？
Do we desire for our children to be a vessel for the Lord?
也许我们会说我不知道神要不要使用我们的儿女啊。
We may say, I'm not sure if God wants to use my child.
你先不要管说神要不要用你的儿女
Let us not think about whether or not God wants to use our child.
你先问自己说我要不要把我的儿女献给神，服侍神？
But let us first ask ourselves, are we willing to offer our child to serve God?
哈拿当他儿子撒母耳一生下来就把他完全的奉献。
When Hannah's son Samuel was born, she completely offered him to the Lord.
要他终身的来服侍神。
So that he could serve the Lord all the days of his life.
今天呢，在教会里头，我们会看到做父母亲的有两种很极端的态度。
Today in church, we see two extreme attitudes regarding their children.
一种是尽量不要让他的孩子来参与服侍因为孩子功课很忙，功课比较重要。
The first is that they try as much as they can not to involve their children in church work because the homework and school work are too important.
这个课外活动比较重要。
Extracurriculars are more important.
那另外一种虽然同意儿女来服侍但是却是指定项目的服侍。
And the other, even though they want their children to serve, but they have special areas that they want their child to serve in.
要做那种安排表上面有名字的服侍
They only want their kids to serve in where their name can be on the church schedule.
甚至
It can be seen.
只做那些在这个会众眼前的服侍。
Or even only allowing their child to serve in very visible positions.
这样都是极端的。
And these are extreme attitudes.
都是不对的。
And they are incorrect attitudes.
那接下来我们看到这个哈拿把他的儿子撒母耳奉献在以利的手下来学习。
Next, we see that Hannah offered her son Samuel under the tutelage of Eli.
以利是一个糊涂的祭司，这个哈拿都领教过了。
And Hannah had experience of Eli's confusion.
但是哈拿却仍然能够从以利那边来得到信心的造就。
But yet from him, she was able to be edified in her faith.
因为他的虚心能够从以利的话来得到安慰。
Because of in her heart, she could receive comfort from the words of Eli.
同样的，撒母耳跟以利学习的时候也是一样的。
And likewise, when Samuel was learning from Eli,
要在这个以利的手下学习确实需要有很大的谦卑才可以。
one must have a lot of humility in order to follow and learn under Eli.
老师都那么老了。
The teacher is so old.
很多事情都忘了。
And he's very forgetful in many things.
圣经说他说以利这个两眼昏花没有什么神的漠视。
The Bible described him as his eyes cannot see very well, and he did not receive much signs from the Lord.
今天有很多这些小弟兄小姐妹在上这个宗教教育课程当中
Today, there are many young brothers and sisters during their RE classes.
自认为自己比老师懂得都还多啦。
They feel that they know more than their RE teachers.
在参加这个教会所办的学生灵恩会啦或者是全国神学训练班啦。
When they attend the student spiritual convocations or the NYTS.
总是觉得自己懂得很多。
They feel like they know so much more.
那这样的态度其实就没有办法来学到很多从神来的这个信息跟话语的教导。
And this kind of attitude prevents a person from truly being able to learn from the words of God.
所以我们看到撒母耳他一定是从他妈妈的这个谦卑那边得到了遗传。
And so we see that Samuel must have inherited the meekness and humility from his mother Hannah.
所以甚至他能够从这个老祭司以利那边学很多。
And so that he could actually glean a lot from this old priest Eli.
学很多属灵的功课。
And he learned many spiritual lessons under Eli.
传道还记得有一次这个学生灵恩会。
I still remember one student spiritual convocation.
在筹备的时候就有一些人提一些建议。
And some students have made a suggestion.
在这个准备课程的时候说不要考试不要考那些背诵圣句这个什么时代的还在背圣句无聊。
And during preparation for the lessons, they had gave their feedback saying, please don't test us on Bible memorization. In this day and age, nobody does that.
这个我们的孩子这个在现在这个时代当中要有新的教法才可以。
And the students want the new style of teaching that's more modern.
那甚至现代的现今的传道人这个英文也讲不好那圣经也这个讲不好。
And there are some the pastors, some are limited in their English skills, and some in their speaking skills.
所以我的孩子每次回来问他说这次学的什么他们总是摇头说这个英文这个传道的英文太烂了，讲的英文我们听不懂传道的表达太烂了，我们都学不到东西。
And so when I ask my kids when they come back from these classes, how was it? They tell me that they couldn't really understand the English that the pastor was trying to say, as well as a lot of the responses that they were trying to teach them.
那所以那一次的这个学生灵恩会
And so from that spiritual convocation to student spiritual convocation.
其中有一位主要讲课的这个执事他还是喜欢考一些背诵圣句。
There was one deacon. He loved to quiz the students on Bible verses.
那这个小弟传到我是考那个你可以看圣经看笔记本什么通通可以看，就是不要看别人就好。
And in my test, I allow everyone to use their Bibles and notes as long as they don't look off their peers.
换句话说，只要你上课有听有做笔记，你绝对会写。
In other words, if you pay attention during class and take notes, you will be able to answer the questions.
那我们弟兄姐妹，你猜猜看。
And so I asked our brothers and sisters to take a guess.
那一次的第一名是谁呢？
Who do you think scored the highest during that time?
无论是考背诵圣句，或者是考可以翻开圣经看笔记本的他都考满分。
This person tested for the highest, whether or not they had to memorize verses or had open Bible, open notes.
竟然是一个刚刚来美国1个礼拜，我们信徒的亲戚，还是个慕道者。
And it was actually a truth seeker that was a relative of one of our believers that just came from to the U.S. about a week.
所以这个让我们知道，问题不是出在教的人，而是出在学的人哦。
And so this teaches us that the problem does not lie in the teacher, but rather in the student.
所以我们看到撒母耳，他能够从以利那边能够学到很多属灵的功课。
And we see that Samuel could learn many spiritual teachings from Eli.
但是扫罗却没有办法从撒母耳那边学到任何的功课。
But Saul, on the other hand, was unable to learn any teachings from Samuel.
两者之间差在哪里呢？
What was the difference between the two?
可能是没有学习谦卑的态度吧。
Perhaps it was in the lack of humility.
所以我们看到这也是撒母耳被他的妈妈哈拿所影响的部分。
We see that this was the area that Hannah had great influence on her son.
所以今天晚上我们学习的这个一个祷告的母亲哈拿。
Tonight we learned about the praying mother Hannah.
我们学习到她的祷告。
We learned about her prayer.
也学习到她的奉献。
We learned about her service.
也学习到她对她的儿子的影响。
And we learned about her influence on her son.
这个以前英国的首相丘吉尔曾经说过一句话。
There was a leader of England that once said.
说主宰国家命运的是摇篮旁边的那一双手。
It says that the one that controls the nation are the hands that rock the cradle.
也许今天我们也可以这么说主宰神家神国命运的是主借着每一双摇篮旁边的那双手。
In the same way, the one that greatly influences God's kingdom and His church are those hands that rock the cradle and raise up good children.
愿我们都能够向哈拿来学习。
May we all learn from Hannah's life.
那今天晚上我们就跟大家一起学习到这里。